What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Battle for Azeroth first look video. My name is Michael Hogman, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of the brand new game modes in the next expansion called Islands. Now, Islands are a brand new thing, and Blizzard seemed to really love talking about them because they gave like a 20-minute speech over the things. So, trust me, they're really hyped about this, and I think it's pretty cool. I think it's definitely something worth talking about because it has a lot of interesting factors about it that I haven't quite seen in World of Warcraft before, and I think that there's a lot of differences within the islands that make it worth talking about and make it worth your time, and I'm definitely going to respect your time, so we are going to dive into this. I'm going to explain what islands are, and then I'm going to give my opinion on it for the pros and the cons of islands, in my opinion, and stuff that I would like to see added if they haven't been already, right? So let's dive into this. Basically, these islands are something that you're going to be going to these Uncharted Islands with the new continents that are released in Battle for Azeroth, right? And when you go to these Uncharted Islands, you're going to be trying to collect all of the Azerite in the island, right? And this Azerite is basically the new artifact power. It's the new currency that you collect in order to power up your character, right? It'll power up the Heart of Azeroth, which I'll get into in another video, but these islands are a 3-player scenario, and they are role agnostic, okay? So what that means is it's similar to the demonic evasions that you see on Legion right now, and that means that 3 players of any role, doesn't have to be tank, healer, or DPS, it could be any combination of that, can queue up and join into these Uncharted Islands. They're built to be anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes of length, which makes it about the same amount as a dungeon, give or take, right? And then they're supposed to have fast queues, and there's some really cool game modes for this, okay? So this is something that I think, this specific feature I'm about to talk about is something I feel like should be applied to Warfronts as well, but we're going to talk about it in Islands. Okay, so the Islands game modes are going to be Normal, Heroic, Mythic, and PvP. Now that's really interesting, right? Because you have the normal islands, right? And those that's for plebs. And then we have heroic, and that's for like strong plebs. And then we've got mythic, and that's going to be really cool because everybody can like hammer through that and try their best. And I definitely hope that the mythic level is like truly difficult, because mythic level for dungeons, like mythic level 0, is a joke. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be a mythic plus system for these islands. So I hope that the mythic level is really going to be cool. And then we've got the PvP one, where basically you fight against other players. And let me explain how that works real quick. So without PvP, if you're just playing normal, heroic, or mythic, you actually are going to be trying to fight against 3 other faction members, okay? And here's where it gets confusing. Basically, if you are fighting against the PvE ones, the normal, heroic, mythic, you're going to be fighting against PvE champions of the Alliance or Horde. There's going to be 3 of them. But if you fight as PvP, then you fight against players. You fight against actual players queuing up in the PvP difficulty, right? Now, if they are only the PvE champions, then they apparently are so smart that they're like crazy to beat. Like, that's how Blizzard has explained them through this announcement, is that when you fight against these other faction champions, if they're on normal, you know, they'll be pretty smart. If they're on heroic, they'll be a little bit smarter and a little bit harder. If they're on mythic, they're supposed to be like insane, these 3 like PvE champions. So I definitely am interested to see how that's going to play out. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going to these islands, you're going to try to get this Azerite, you're going to fight against these other members of the faction, and you are also going to be doing several different things in order to collect this Azerite, and it's all going to change too. So I'll get into the changing part in a second, but basically you're going to be fighting creatures, you're going to be fighting bosses, you're going to be doing different experiences, you're going to have different start locations on the island, so it's not always going to be the same. You can pick it up from chests, you can, you know, do all sorts of things, and you're supposed to also be able to interact with a lot of the island. You know, the example he gave is that you can pick up a starfish, for example, and throw it at a boss and like either do it extra damage to the boss or CC the boss in general and take the Azerite and leave. So there's all sorts of different ways to kind of go about these islands, and there's all sorts of different routes and optimal ways to be able to successfully get as much Azerite as possible before you are leaving this island, right? So that's the overall like understanding of these islands, right? what's cool about it is that when you fight these champions are supposed to be able to understand like where your weak points are. So, for example, if you're fighting a boss, they might gank you when you're fighting that boss, and they might wait until you fight that boss in order to gank you. Or, for example, they might sap your healer and then kill you, and everybody will focus you. That's how these are supposed to work, and I think that it's really cool because they're supposed to be so dynamic. It's not just the champions that will change on a regular basis, but it will also be the world itself, the island itself. It's supposed to be so dynamic and so different all the time that you basically get on this island and you have a different experience every time, and I think that's cool. My only worry for this is that it's not so different all the time. You basically go in and you have 10 different scenarios, because how many scenarios can they really make, right? And when you go through this, you have this scenario, and then people just start getting better and better at them, and then you just start flying through these islands, right? And here's the question, is that when you are farming this Azerite, and you get so good at islands that you can just basically understand the islands and you understand the optimal routes because you've practiced so much, do islands become the mind-numbingly boring farming Azerite scenario? That's the question I have. I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff to be had here, and I hope that they are actually difficult, so that makes them competitive. And I think the PvP aspect of it is really, really cool. It adds an extra layer to it. But I think that hopefully, you know, I just don't want to like get super hyped for this and then it comes out and then people like just do it and then they now understand the entirety of the scenarios. They always know which route to do, and then people like eventually just fly through these in 5 minutes and they're all about farming Azerite and everyone gets bored, similar to how they have to farm AP and Legion, right? And I just hope that it doesn't evolve into that. But some things that I really like about it is the fact that they did present these mythic level dungeons or these mythic level islands as very difficult. They did present these overall dynamic replayability type things with these islands. They presented that as a very like high variety area so that you can go in and you can be surprised by different combinations, and I really do hope that will be the case. So with these islands, the very first ones that will be available are going to be there's actually one in Gilneas. I can't remember, I think it's like Havensbrook or something like that, where you actually go into Gilneas and that is your island. So it's just kind of weird that they call it an island, but it's in Gilneas. It's not super Uncharted, but it is actually an Uncharted area in World of Warcraft. And there are also regular islands, like there's some ruins you go to, and you have to fight through there and defeat bosses and do all the different scenarios that they offer you. I think that this can be really cool, guys. You know, my positives here is just that like they are dynamic, they are different, and I like that it's a 3-player scenario so that you can just go in with 2 friends and just do your thing. Like you don't have to farm out, or you don't have to like figure out where everyone is and like try to put together a 20-man raid group, or you don't have to put together a 10-man RBG team. Like you can just go in, you just play threes islands basically, and I think that's cool. The negatives obviously are just like if it's too easy and people start to get bored of it and it just becomes about farming Azerite. One thing that I really did think about, and one thing that I really wanted to talk about, is the fact that like you go on these islands, like you only farm Azerite. Like it just sounds incredibly unappealing to farm Azerite. I understand that like you have to farm Azerite to increase your power level, and I get that, and I think that's cool. But you know, I really do hope that they add extra rewards to this to make like some level of excitement in there. Because if you just farm Azerite and you just get Azerite, like that's cool, but it's like farming gold. Like no one wants to go out and just farm gold. Like it's boring. It gets boring after a while. So I would love it if they added something like a legendary transmog set, or like, you know, an ensemble of sorts, right, where you can get some gear out of it, some transmog, and it's like on a 1% or a 0.1% drop rate. And the same goes with like mounts. If there was like 10 different mounts, or each island had a different mount that you could get, but it was such a low drop rate, so you had to get like lucky enough to get that island and then also get lucky enough to get the mount. Like I think that there should be something extra aside from just Azerite, because Azerite is just a currency, and I think people will get bored with that. And I think, you know, since there isn't currently a rank system with these islands that have been presented, I think that they'll be treated in a way that's like on the same level of like skirmishes, or the same level as like even like the PvP brawls. Like there just needs to be something to farm for. There needs to be something to motivate you aside from just Azerite, because people will get bored of farming Azerite. People already are bored of farming artifact power. and I just overall hope that there is something else aside from just Azeroth. So that's pretty much it, guys. You know, that's the entirety of my Islands video. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video and you got some information out of this. If you did, be sure to leave a subscribe on my channel so that you will be updated for future videos that are released on Battle for Azeroth. And if you enjoyed this video in particular, be sure to give a big thumbs up, show the channel some support, show this video some support, and also leave a comment down below letting me know exactly how you feel about the information that was talked about here. Like, do you like islands? Do you dislike them? What are some of the problems or some of the things you really, want to see more of with the islands? And just what are your overall hopes for it? So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.